Hey everybody, and welcome to Chapter 1, Setting Up Your Revit File. This is Section 1, How to Start a Revit File. Starting a project in Revit is very easy, and you have 3 different ways of going about it. This is the first screen that you see when you double-click on the Revit icon on your desktop to start the program. It's called the Welcome screen or the Start screen. And from here, you may choose to open an existing project, a new blank project, or a new but not blank project using one of Revit's predefined templates. Let's talk about how to do that. The first thing we want to do is we want to create 2 new files. The first file is going to be a new but blank Revit file, and the second one is going to be a new but template file using the Revit architectural template. Over here on the left-hand side of the screen, we have a couple of different options and ways of going about that. We can choose to open an existing file or create a new file here. I'm going to click on New, and the New Project dialog box pops up here. To create a new blank file, I'm going to choose None. I'm going to choose OK. And because we're here in America and we use feet and inches, I'm going to choose Imperial as my system of measurement. Click. By doing what I just did, I just created a brand new Revit working file, and it's blank. It's blank meaning I don't have any inherent settings, which will make a lot of sense in just a minute. Just to clarify, I want to tell you about the term working file because I'm going to be using it a lot throughout this class. The term Revit working file essentially means the file that I use to generate all of my model geometry in. So my Revit model is going to be generated in my working file. And that Revit file, the working file, is going to be used to generate construction documents or design documents that are then given to a contractor to build a project from. So when I say working file, that's what I mean by that. Okay, I'm going to close out this file that I just generated. And again, that was a blank working file. And I'm going to show you how to create a new working file out of the Revit architectural template. I'm going to click on New here. And I'm going to drop down and choose Architectural Template. You're going to see here that we have a few different types of templates that we can use when we want to generate a new file here. Construction, architectural, structural, and mechanical. Each of these has inherent settings predefined in them that will help you make the task of an architectural project easier, a construction project easier, a structural project easier. The difference between a construction template and an architectural template is generally going to be the difference between a commercial and a residential project. So usually when you're starting a residential project, you'll likely want to start with the construction template. And if you're starting a commercial project, likely the architectural template. So I'm going to click on Architectural Template here. I'm going to click on OK, and my new file has just been generated. Again, this doesn't have any model geometry in it, but because it's the architectural template, it has a lot of inherent settings that makes my task easier. One example of a setting that is predefined in this template, I'm going to initiate the wall command here. I have a lot of different wall types generated in here that I didn't have in the blank Revit file that I started first. So if I wanted to draw a wall here, I can click on a wall type. I can start drawing, and off we go. I'm going to close out this file, and I'm going to show you how to open a file that I've already been working on and want to continue working on. I'm going to come up here on the left-hand side of my screen, and I'm going to choose Open. I'm going to browse to wherever that file is located on my computer. In this example, it's in my Online Revit 2020 folder. I'm going to click on the file that I want to open. I'm going to choose Open here. And that is going to open up a working file that I had previously been working on and want to continue working on. So in this file, it's not blank. I've done work. I've modeled geometry, and I have a 3D model in here I want to continue working on, right? This is just a little house project, but I can look at it in 3 dimensions. I can come over here and look at the floor plan view, right? And I can continue working and modeling. I'm going to close out of this file. And we're going to look at a couple other things. The final way that we can open or create a new file is through the Revit interface. And we're going to access the Revit interface by clicking on this little arrow we saw up here before. Click. I'm brought into sort of a blank and grayed out Revit interface where I can see all of the tools and the tabs. I can click on a few things. I can see my quick access toolbar, but I can't really do anything in here. What I can do is I can go back to the welcome screen if I need to. I can click on this little icon here, home, click, and it brings me back to the welcome or startup page. The next thing I can do is I can access the file tab. I can click, I can choose new, project, I can choose open, project, and another thing that you're going to notice is that I have a recent documents option here as well. So all of those things that I had in the welcome screen are also available in the Revit interface. In addition to new and open, I can save and export and do a whole lot of other things that I probably couldn't do in the welcome or startup page. But I am able to create all of the same brand new files and open files in the interface that I can from the welcome page. So for example, I could choose residence here under my recent documents, click. And if we wait a second here, that file opens up. I could close it out. I could go back to my Revit interface, file, new, project, and I could choose whatever template or blank file option I needed to create my project. Okay. The final thing we're going to talk about in this section is how to save your project. And I want to save a project so that you can see what Revit file type is generated and the backup file that is generated with it. So I'm going to close out of this file and I'm going to quick access my residence example file. Click. I'm going to save this file. And I'm going to act as if it's the first time I've ever saved it. So I'm going to choose File, Save As, a project, and I'm going to browse to wherever I want it to be saved at. Now within my file structure here, you're going to see some folders, and you're also going to see the residence example.rvt file, as well as the residence example 0007.rvt file. This file right here, without that numeric sort of prefix before the extension, that is my working file. These files with that numeric prefix before the extension, those are my backup files. We're going to talk about how to specify how many backup files are generated and some of that good stuff in another section. But I did want to make you aware that this file without that numeric extension, that is your working file. It is an RVT extension, and that's what I'm going to save my file as. If I look at my file structure here, I could also double click on this file and open it, and that would bring me into my working file. Something very tricky about Revit that I want to make you aware of is that these backup files, they can also be double clicked on and opened as a Revit working file. So I could click, and Revit acts as if it's going to open. Now I already have the working file open, right? So it's kind of tricky because I'm allowed to open a backup file and a working file at the same time. Now, if I accidentally save this backup file and it saves over the top of my working file, I could lose work. I could lose 5 hours of work, 2 hours of work, 30 hours of work, which we don't want to happen. So a major part of working in Revit is not only modeling geometry, creating construction drawings, but also making sure that you can manage your files so that you don't accidentally undo work that you've done. Okay? So we're going to very carefully close out of these files and not save them so I don't save a backup file. And this will end section 1 of chapter 1, setting up your Revit file.